Hello, is my microphone on? Yes, it is. Thanks for joining me 2 days in a row for a read-through. Today I thought that I could celebrate Pride. So what better way to do that than reviewing Glitter Hearts by Greg Lederman? And I seize the opportunity to express my enthusiasm to all the amazing content brought to the tabletop RPG scenes by queer creators. There's so much of that, and I just wanted to say to all the queer folks out there that I am personally very thankful for your contribution to the TTRPG scene, and that includes also people who might not be creators, but I'm lucky to count a few of you among my friends and people I played with in a variety of opportunities, and I'm so thankful for that. So I hope you, despite the many terrible circumstances, you are enjoying this month, which is yours. Cheers. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. Thanks, Akadosh and Barog, for joining our chat room. I will also say that so today might be the day I meet the requirements to become affiliate. I just need an extra day, so we'll see. And if we have 20 people or more in the chat room at some point, I will play some ukulele afterwards. But without further ado, let's go into Glitter Hearts. So here we are, Glitter Hearts, a game of transforming magical heroes. So magical heroes in the sense of, I believe it's called Magical Girl in manga and animation. For people less familiar with that, that would be Sailor Moon, or it would be Gigi also for the French speakers among you who are as old as I am and remember Gigi on the French television, and the terrible end of Gigi was run over by a truck. Yeah, to Google it. So here we are, is your opportunity to play magical transforming heroes. So I'm experimenting today with the two spread. Does that show correctly? Yeah, it seems to show correctly. So you've got the screen full of more interesting things. So most people feel that the world is drab, a place of mundane rules where things work according to the physical laws of nature. They believe that we are alone in the universe, and that stories of magic fairies and the worlds beyond our own are just fables told to keep people in line or teach some outdated lesson. They are wrong. Because you now know better. You have been chosen to become a protector of this world. A strange creature revealed that the threats you've had nightmares about are real. There's a witch down the street that is stealing children, and there are pirates with a base on the moon. Imbued with your magical powers, you are able to transform into something powerful, a superhero of epic proportions that can stem the tide of evil. You will stand side by side with your friends and bring justice to this world, provided you can pass your math test on Monday. So yeah, that's the concept of the magical Sailor Moon, etc. You have a day-to-day life, usually which involves high school and homework and glee clubs and this sort of things. And on the side, you are a superhero. So it's powered by the Apocalypse game. It's our first on the Rolistes read. So for the information of people who are not never heard that, so powered by the Apocalypse, or PBTA, are many games which have which share sort of kind of an engine. Usually each game is slightly different, but they all are largely inspired by a game called Apocalypse World. which was quite a landmark moment for the tabletop RPG scenes because it brought in a lot of very interesting new concepts. And the engine is available. People can use it and tinker with it and make their own game with it. And if you do so, you are encouraged to call that Powered by the Apocalypse, so people know that you are this sort of game. And there's a lot of fans of this game system, so you should definitely do that. Some games include Apocalypse World, which is the original one. Masks, A New Generation is a PBTA game. You also have Dungeon World. You have what else? So many of them. I maybe not Iron Sworn, although it was highly inspired by PBTA. You have even Blades in the Dark, which now has its own Forge in the Dark family of games, are all inspired by PBTA. Okay, Balrog, thanks for dropping by. See you later in the chat room. So, Glitter Hearts. Explore the world of superheroics through the lens of ordinary people who gain extraordinary power by transforming from their everyday selves into super beings with access to fantastic powers. So, magical shows like that, actually the moment when you transform in your new persona is always it's a trope and something you really want to lean into when you play this sort of game. Because it's a much longer game than the quick start that I'm usually cover, I'm going to try to go a bit further. By the way, all shows might have sequels, so even the 3 games I covered so far might have a follow-up episode. So Tales of Xadia, Arcane Toulouse 2D20, and yesterday's, no, not Sonia and Conan vs. the Ninja, because it's a nice little tight game and it all fits in an episode. But yeah, let's jump forward. A game master, if you're watching this, you're probably familiar what that is. That's someone who somewhat curates the narration, all the events that happen, and will play all the characters and describe all the situations the players are confronted to. Our game here, Glitter Hearts, is limited to 3 to 5 players. You need dice, in most, but not all, tabletop RPG games, and blank sheets or character sheets. So the player plays a single character. Moves and playing the game. So here we start jumping into what makes PBTA game. Usually they're structured by moves and booklet for characters, but I know Glitter Hearts isn't quite like that. So a character moves help him form, but not always limit, what the player can decide to do in any given scene. Many actions may not require a move or a roll, such as simple role-playing. During play, when a character's stated course of action might trigger a move, the game master will call upon them to make a roll. So that's the thing about the PBTA spirit, is that ideally you do not, like in traditional game, often it's a culture too, you do not say, oh, I want to make this skill check, I want to make a stealth check, I want to make an investigation check, I want to make a religion check. No, you describe an action, and what you describe triggers a move. So it's story first rather than system first, which is something I struggled a bit the first time I play a PBTA game, or the first time I run a PBTA game with people who are used to so-called traditional games, because then they were always tempted to have a look at their character sheet and tell me, okay, I'm doing this. While I was saying, no, forget your character sheet for a moment. Just tell me what's happening, what you're doing, and the table together with the curation from the game master will tell you when you trigger something. So also as a game master, you need to know a bit more the character sheets from your players. So sometimes it might take a couple of sessions so that you get a feel and you remember what your players can do properly. Good morning, Lysander. Thanks for joining today. Buenos dias, Furious. Thanks for joining. Okay. So when you trigger a move, you already described what you were attempting to do, what was the situation, and all the moves in PBTA game work the same way. You roll 2d6 and you add a stat, which is mentioned in that move. And in all those dice roll, it's pretty much always the same. If your result is a 10 or more, it's a success. So you read the move and you do what the move describes. So that's the thing. So they're more than a skill. We'll find out later. They tell you what, not only what triggers them, but what are the consequences of a successful dice roll with them. These benefits are often referred as olds. Olds are like coins that can be spent on asking questions or getting specific results. Sometimes I find the description of olds a bit confusing because they sound like something you keep for a long time, while actually you usually spend it right away. But that's beside the point. On a 7, 8, or 9, the move is mixed or partial success. So that's also a thing which PBTA is a big proponent of. The idea that you've got successes, but more often than not, you will succeed at a cost, or succeed with some complications of some kind, again, which are often described in the move. Yes, if the roll is 6 or less, the move fails. That doesn't mean a big failure. It's just that you don't manage to do what you wanted to do. It might mean that this action has a terrible result or is a complete failure. A failure means that the game master can make a hard or soft move against the player. Hard and soft moves are stuff as a game master that I'm still struggling with. Hard move are things you take a high control of the narration of as a game master. Soft moves usually is something we just amend a bit the situation and you require more input from the players, if I'm correct, and it might not apply to all games. The basic moves. So we'll see, usually, I know Glitterheart is not exactly like that, but usually in PBTA games you have a booklet for your character class, if you will, and they are super fast to create your character because you just tick boxes of what move you want to start with, and you usually have a selection of them, so there's no calculation, there's no total of anything. Often you have an array for different stats, or those stats are related for attributes, usually are connected to the booklet you pick, so you don't have to think hard about that. Which personally, not only it's fast, but as a player I appreciate, because that means that there's very little chances, if it's at all possible, that when I play a PBTA game that I will start with a character which is poorly designed, like I could with Pathfinder or other games where I just spend my skill checks and my XP and so on stuff which are not optimized. There's no optimization per se in PBTA and in Glitterheart, but there's enforcing tropes. So even other games like Star Wars D6 had players struggle to have to get their mind around what they wanted to play. That's it. As someone like me, full disclosure, who thinks character creation is overrated, I find PBTA games are a good middle ground, because the characters do create their character, they do personalize their character, but there's a number of things which are preset, so I don't have to worry about that as a game master. They will always design a character which is fitting for the setting and type of action that the game wants. Okay, so the basic moves are moves that all the players have in common. So those are the ones as a game master you should definitely remember. We can do this together. Teamwork is key, and lending your support to another hero can change everything. This is used to aid another in hopes they succeed. This is also your main access to PowerPoint. So you will describe how you're supporting another player trying to do something, and that move is triggered. Touch their heart. Everyone can be saved, and you have at least try. You have to at least try. Different than convincing someone, this is an attempt to change your adversary's outlook towards you and their action. So it, again, very tropey, very appropriate for for a magical transforming heroes, there's always this moment like, no, no, don't do that. You don't want to really do that. You don't want to be evil. That's something which happens regularly. So we have a move for that. PBTA functions as a trope supporting / enforcing system and whatever system you use. I got Noir World to play noir movies. You've got again, Blades in the Dark is a heist game, so all those moves will always bring the way the players and the system works towards a very specific experience, which is related to the tropes you want to do. Be them dungeon crawling, a noir story, a heist, superheroes in it with masks, a new generation. Clash, when diplomacy has failed, then you get into a fight. That's it. That's your fighting skill. That's it. You don't have a melee, ranged, and all of that. You clash somehow. It can be with magical beings, it can be with punches, whatever you're wielding. That's a basic move for that. I expect usually character booklet have some specific moves related to their archetype, so we'll find out more about that, but that's your fighting thing. Grims the truth. At any time you can attempt to investigate deeper, and so investigation move, classic. Be vigilant, trying to not to notice things in different ways. Keep your wits about you. You facing difficult situation. Are there? I'm gonna check quickly. Are there? Often there's a card with, because I'd like to see if there's a page which says specific effects of basic moves, game mastering and session weaponry. 55. Let's jump to page 55 to see a bit more of the those basic moves. Yeah, so hey, okay, so we won't go through them all, but here's an example of we can do this together. Oh, let's have one. Touch their heart. I'm interested in this one. So touch their heart. You're about to start a fight, or you surprised the big villain who's about to do something which is terrible, and you're trying to convince them. You did a big speech to convince them to change their heart and stop doing that terrible things. Everyone can be safe, and you have at least try roll plus emotional. So characters have different attributes. In this case, it's emotional you use. On a 12 plus, so that's a outstanding success, they see the errors of their ways and remove themselves from the situation. So they surrender, they flee, or switch sides. You form a relationship with them of your choice. They might still be a villain, but you have a connection with them. And another thing which is typical of a lot of PBTA game is that characters are removed from a scene. That doesn't mean that they are killed necessarily, and they run out of health points, and it can be very sudden. It's not this attrition thing, it's a narrative thing. Suddenly the player or the character is removed from the game, and it's fine, and you can usually interpret that in whatever way you want. It could be they disappear in a puff of smoke, or they just flee while crying because they realize the error of their ways. It's up to interpretation, but it's not limited to I punched them till they were knocked out or worse, dying. On a 10 plus, they doubt their chosen course of action. So should I really do this? All team members gain +2 to actions against them. So they create this moment of hesitation. This +2 goes away if the target takes damage. So you got a +2. So very appropriate for magical transforming heroes. You got +2, but not to hurt them. So that might be the moment when your allies are trying to restrain the villain, or they're trying to build up, to make more arguments about what is going on. Maybe you have a specific move to do that, or something appropriate. But you create a moment of hesitation, and the action continues. But the action continues not in the form of I sneak attack them, although that could happen. You still get your +2. It's just from that point on, the +2 is gone. On a 7-9, they stumble or hesitate and are plagued with questions. The next action against this target gets the +1, so it's just more limited in time. On a 6 or lower, they become more resolute in their actions, so you entirely failed. All non-clash actions against this target suffer a -1. So it's interesting, while our 10 plus and 7-9 encourage you to stop the fight and engage in actions which were not resulting in damages, on a 6, it sort of does the opposite by giving a malus to all actions which are not physical aggressions. So very tropey. Again, that's what a PBTA game does. So I think this illustrates, and you got all the basic moves, and you sort of are encouraged to know them all, or usually you have them on a page in front of you, so that's fine. You don't need to know them by heart, but you need to have a feel of them, which is where often PBTA fans are very enthusiastic about their games, and they were even more a couple of years ago. They were really into it, and their enthusiasm would be translated in them often saying that it was the best system ever, and above all, they would say that it was way simpler than most traditional games, including Dungeons and Dragons. I slightly disagree. The move are being one is that in Dungeons and Dragons, or most, like say a BRP Call of Cthulhu, you don't really need to know the list of skills, and there are not specific things you need to remember about those skills as the game master or a player. While in a PBTA game, you should remember a bit the moves, so you realize when something is triggered, or when you try to do an action that, without you looking really at your character sheet, you still trying more or less consciously to trigger the moves. And yeah, so there's a memory of things you need to get there, and an understanding and an interpretation of it. So my personal view is that PBTA games are not simpler than traditional games. They might involve much less math, for sure, but they involve much more skills in terms of improvisation and ability to be a storyteller, and a bit of text memory, system memory than other games might. It's different. It's not simpler. It's different, which makes it actually. One thing I found out is that I personally find it's easier to run a PBTA game for people who never played a role-playing game than it is to run a PBTA game for people who's been playing for years a quote traditional game, because a lot of the habits and knee-jerk reactions that you developed and the crutches you've developed as a traditional player or game master, they tend a bit to get in the way of mastering playing a PBTA game. They tend to be slightly confusing. Okay, so that's the basic concept of a move. Let's go further up and see what the guidebook has for us. All right. So that's the moves, the basic ones. Again, each booklet will have specific ones. A few player guidelines, and again, PBTA. That's, I would highly recommend anyone who never played PBTA games to have a go at playing several ones. What I would say is that it might not be your thing. Give it a go, because it's different. Well, again, when I say it's different, so if you like tennis, you don't have to like squash. They are similar. They are in the same family of sport, but they are different games. Alright. Anyway, but there are philosophies of gaming which are very interesting in any PBTA game, which would be worth importing a bit more to traditional games. So here are the guidelines. Be active When your character wants to do something, state what they wish to do. Try not to ask, can I do this? Although this can be difficult to do at first, instead think about the actions your character would take and what would logically work. So throw yourself in the action. I think we would agree that's a good advice. Don't be shy. I know it's hard, especially if you're a new player, but it's a good philosophy to have around the table. Do what your character will do. Trying to be in character, not as interpreting in character, but trying to think of what your character would do and would react. It doesn't have to be a sensible thing to do, especially in a PBTA game. You know, in a Dungeons and Dragons game, you sort of need a social contract with the other players to have an idea if they're okay, if you're not doing things which are tactically sensible. In a PBTA game, you should go with the narration, even if it puts you in harm's way or even the other players in harm's way. The philosophy would be about you do what your character would do because they're in the spur of the moment, and don't overthink about the meta aspect of things. Create an awesome story, which again should apply to all tabletop role-playing games, but it's really critical in a PBTA game. Respect the other players and the game master. Well, again, that would apply to any game ideally, but since you have this liberty and you are encouraged to be in character when you do things, yeah, there should be a clear agreement and about things which the player agrees appropriate or not. And again, safety tools, lines and veils, discuss them beforehand. An X card is always nice, especially if you play with strangers. It's highly recommended. Go and use all those. Okay, the first session. Okay, characters. Okay, we've got health points. That's I don't remember many PBTA game with health points. So let's see what it's about. So character in Glitter are a combination of their normal everyday self and hero. And the hero they become when they transform. While on their everyday self, they only have access to their stats, relationships, and the moves granted by their everyday persona. Once they transform, they gain access to the moves granted by their magical archetype and their mystical connection. Glitter Hearts use 5 main stats for the basis of the rolls that your players will make when performing moves. So, moving a bit ahead, so my understanding is that unlike most games like Maths, for instance, in which you play the Janus or the Transformed or the Beacon booklet and that's it. In Glitter Hearts, if I remember correctly, from an interview with Greg Lederman, which I recorded and I recommend you go check out. I will post a link. You choose, I think, a persona for your day-to-day life, and you choose a magical transformation. So, but the one magical transformation is not always matched with the same day-to-day persona. So you could be, we'll find out. But yeah, it's part of 2 halves which you bring together and makes it more unique. So you got even more combination than most PBTA. Physical, all things strength, dexterity, constitution. If you need your body to do the action, this is a stat. Hit points, your HP is equal to 10 plus physical. Okay. Your hit points are a generic representation of how much damage a person can take. These are no negative impacts to having less than full HP. At 0, they are unable to continue without healing or rest. Mental, all things involved with thinking problems, noticing things. This is for finding clues, figuring things out, and using your smarts in high pressure situation. This isn't a direct measure of a character's intelligence per se, but it's more a gauge of how well they can recall things or their level of general knowledge and ability to apply that knowledge. So you can be street smart, you can be fashion smart, you can be math smart. That's your mental, or you can be just really observant and empathic, but a bit aloof, if it's an appropriate word, which is something you often see in transforming heroes media, again, like Sailor Moon. Emotional, making connections with people. Well, okay, strike this. About mental, emotional is its own separate things. I mean, you can be easy good at, I don't know, making connections with people with their charm, deception, coercion. Okay, so it's more proactive than reading people. Persona, your sense of self and self-worth, how confident you are, how strong you are in your own abilities, and how resistant you are to manipulations. Mystical, the other, the outside world, the magic, the strange, and so on. Okay, stat modifiers. The plus or minus to a stat tells you how good or bad you are at applying that stat in a stressful situation or in a situation where you might fail. The modifiers are -2, it's cerebral, -1 is bad, 0 is average. The outcome has 50-50 chances of success or failure. Okay, so when you roll again your 2d6, so it's a scale, if you will. +3 is the best, the peak. You can go higher than +3 in any stats. So it's a little scale. You don't have a +2, 10, +12 like in many strat games, because again you're rolling just 2d6, and you're only trying to beat a 10 or a 7. It's okay. So to build a character, your players look at each section: everyday identity, magical archetype, and mystical connection. So actually, it's 3 parts which you bring together. Choose which one for each section appeals to them and fits their view of their character. Let's jump forward and have a look at that. Okay, so character creation. Choose an everyday identity. Record your stat based on your everyday identity. Again, no calculations needed. Choose the remaining 3 stats to place a +1. A little bit of agency there. Choose one move from your everyday identity. Okay, that's your first move. Choose your magical archetype. Choose one move from your magical archetype, that's your second move. Choose your mystical connection, choose your one move from your mystical connection. Figure out your total health, establish your relationship with the other player characters. Okay, we got a little bit of in-character play example. I'm gonna skip that. Everyday identities. Alright, okay, so again, usually we just pick one of those. In most PBTA, that would be your booklet. Here we've got 3 parts that we're going to bring together. We've got the athlete, got the bodybuilder, the boxer, the coach. Okay, okay, so these are all physical focused. A little bit of nice representation in here, by the way. That's really cool. Nothing like a good diverse visual. So all the physical ones. The athlete, okay. The bodybuilder, so I get it's more strength. The athlete is more agility. The boxer, it's more fight. The coach, it's still physical, but it's again, it's very tropey, very transforming heroes, magical transforming heroes. The sports club is often the thing in Sailor Moon. You will have sessions where they play volleyballs and this sort of things. There you go. So the coach, I think the 3 others are self-explanatory. Let's read the coach. You not only can do the job, but you are excellent at teaching and supporting others. However, you may tend to worry too much about those you are taking care of and forget to take care of yourself. So what's interesting with those 3 archetypes I find for physical is that, for instance, each of them could match a character like Sailor Mars, because she really not a boxer, but she's a fencer. She's has very good physical abilities, but I could picture her being a coach, although it might be more Sailor Jupiter. My Sailor Moon knowledge is a bit rusty. It reminds me, there's a new animated movie on Netflix that I need to check. So the moves, you need to pick one of those moves. Lead by example. When making a "we can do this," which is a basic move, check rolling with plus physical, a result of 6 or less as the same outcome as a 7 and 9. So it does 2 things. First, it removes the possibility of you failing. We can do this. Because a result of 6 will be a 7 or 9 for you, so that's very powerful. But the other thing I want to point out is that while we can do this, let me double check, it was page 55. It's the first time I'm opening the book, by the way. On one hand, it means we can do this. Okay, normally it's emotional, so that means that when you have the coach type, you can max out your physical and don't have to worry about your emotional in when as far as we can do this is concerned. That's a nice move. Team player, you get a +1 to clash rolls going forward when fighting alongside one or more other heroes. But you often fight as part of a team, so that's a cool one. Experience judgment. When you try to convince another hero on a course of action through convince someone, because you can +1 to your roll. So interestingly enough, in PBTA, things are very respectful in terms of other players, but you do have players versus players dice rolls. Where it's interesting is that the result of the dice roll, even if you succeed at convincing someone to do something, if you succeed your dice roll, that doesn't mean the player will have absolutely to do with their character what you tell them to, but they will have a choice of going along, which usually means no consequences, or going against by in the final decision. So let's say I roll something to convince you, okay, drink I don't know, you're lactose intolerant, and or you really don't want to have a beer with me. And we're going out for a beer. We're trying to loosen up, and your character is concerned about that. And I couldn't study see why it would be the case. But the scene is that all transforming heroes in their regular day persona decided to go to a bar to relax, and maybe they are at the age or when they can drink, or they are in a country where this age restriction is not an issue. Or maybe I don't know. Or maybe I'm the game master doing that with a villain against the player. So I roll, and let's say I succeed. What happens once I succeeded, and the player said, "No, I don't want to do that," but and I roll. I say, "Okay, I'm trying to convince you." I roll. The result of the roll, a success, will usually be that the player can choose between going along, and they don't get any malice from that, or they go against, and usually they get a malus, which can take different shapes and forms. Oh, was it a basic move, convince someone, actually? Yeah, convince someone. Convince someone. Yeah, let's go have a look. So, for another magical hero, so there we go. So we've got rules here for an NPC, and we've got rules here for a player, and here we've got rules for an actual villain. But let's say I did this to another player. On a 10 plus, if they do what you ask, they mark experience and get a +1 forward. So they got a +1 to their next roll, and they mark experience. And experience, usually it's like 5 experience, you level up. So they get if they do go ahead and drink the beer like I should ask them to, they are rewarded by the system. So in the narration, there might be consequences of that action. Maybe the parents will find out and so on. But in terms of system, there's something which rewards the player of accepting the situation that someone made a convincing case for them to do something. On the 7-9, they might experience if they do what you ask. So again, success, less of a success. So they don't have the +1 forward, but they do get the experience. On a miss, depending on the nature of your relationship, the magical hero can choose how they react. So they're entirely free. They got the agency there. For competitive relationships, they gain +1 forward if they take an action that is the opposite or counter of what you asked. So if the player, for instance, said, I pretend that I'm drinking the beer, but discreetly pours the beer in a plant pot next to me, they will have a +1 forward for that. And in the narration, my own character will believe they did drink the beer. All of that makes sense. If in the chat room you have questions or comments, feel free. If you are more aware of PBTA than I am, and you think I'm talking nonsense, feel free to let me know. All right. Okay. Okay. So we've got. I'm gonna rush forward because we're close to the 1 hour mark. So we're picking up everyday identities. They can be physical, they can be mental, lots of very cool stuff. They can be emotional, they can be emotional is the pink. Personal identities. Okay, so each of them are attributes. The aloof, again, it's a classic. I think I would pick that. The overconfident, mystical, you're right into magic from the get-go. Alright. Then, when we picked, let's say we picked the coach. Okay, so the coach, we are a coach by day, we are a young woman who's coaching the volleyball team. A nod to Attaquant, a TV animated show from from my childhood. Then we have to pick the magical archetype, and we've got the idol, the witch, the warrior, the defender, the tactician. Okay, that's it. It's a bit less extensive. What would I go for with my character with that? Since my everyday type is physical, I think I will go for something which is less magical. Well, not less physical, although it is physical to be one, an idol. So the world is a stage and you're at the center of it all. I hope it's not against Twitch policies to have my son run behind butt naked. The idol, the world is so I'd like to pick that. It speaks to me, being an idol singer. The world is a stage and you're the center of it all. All eyes should be on you. Getting up close and personal would ruin your perfection. So you feel it's best that you support the others to get the job done while looking good. So I'm a coach by day who's really into sport and a bit maybe socially averse and shy. Maybe sometimes being somewhat physically threatening to boys or girls. But yeah, when I transform, I become this super confident star coming from a literal star. Okay, now moves that I could pick from. Gentle winds of healing. Your gentle spirit allows you to send out waves of pure healing. Roll plus persona on a 12 plus. Heal 1d6 plus persona to targets equal to your mystical rating. On a 10 plus, 1d6 persona to so 9 heal plus persona. Okay, so whatever you do, you heal using that. Cool. All eyes on me. You demand attention from your target with your grand presence through charm, fear, or any number of other ways. Make a convince someone roll with persona, and troll targets have no restrictions on what they will do. And troll targets have no restrictions on what they will do. Not sure I understand that sentence. Shimmering wings, you can fly. Ooh, yeah, I dig that. Oh, and you can carry someone with you. So you can fly whatever happens, and you can carry someone with you if you succeed a roll. Okay, so a 7-9, so that's interesting. That's where PBTA shines. You make a roll, you do what you wanted to do, but you create an opportunity for the game master to arrive for something to happen. So on a 7-9, you fly carrying that person, but you expose the two of you to danger. So depending on the situation, it will be the start of a new action scene of some kind, or could be other types of scene. Could be a scene in which you've been noticed. You interpret that however you want, or if you were in the middle of a fight already, that's an opportunity for the villain or his goon to strike. Soothing voice. You can calm a person down just by speaking to them. This gives you a +1 to your convince someone roll. Cool. Purifying touch. You can cure negative conditions with your touch. Roll plus persona. On a 10 plus, you remove the condition easily. On a 7-9, you remove the condition, but at a cost to yourself. On a 6 or less, you take it takes everything you have and still fails. You are left greatly weakened by the attempt gaining the mundane and enfeebled condition. Cool, so you pass over your magic to them. Uh, what would I take? Uh, bu- 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 Yeah, I think I would be a coach who's kind of shy and maybe I mean, yeah, a coach. Not that the coach is not shy, but she's not in romantic situation. She's not great at romantic situations, so she's bossy. She's a bit of a tsundere, if you're aware of some archetypes. And she's pushing over people and pushing them away. But once she transforms into the her idol persona, I think she becomes suddenly very charming and no, I think she becomes super kind actually. So I will go with soothing voice. So and you lean in into singing thing. So yeah, I'm an idol. I'm a coach, everyday coach with a soothing voice idol as a, when going magical. Okay, great. Mystical connection. Oh, so we got elemental. So that's the final touch to our character, which is great because we're approaching the end of this. Mystical connection. So elemental. Okay. Fire, water, air, earth, life, death. Everything was great until the Fire Nation attacked this sort of things. Emotional. Yeah, joy, sadness, love, fear, anger, hope, desire, disgust. Disgust. Wow, a magical girl of disgust. Trust. Magical idol girl of disgust. Might be interesting, but I won't go there. Trust. Okay, so that's it. We got the emotional connections and we've got the element. And I'm pretty sure you can find supplements with even more of them. An idol. So she's a coach. She's bossy. But once she turns into a magical girl. Yeah, I would go for love because I would love the dynamic of her failing to make a romantical connection in her everyday life, and suddenly when she transforms, she becomes this symbol of love and romantical interactions. And you have your classic Clark Kent Superman with their Lois Lane love interest or other characters who might fall for or have all eyes. I could imagine a boy in a classroom that she's attracted to. Maybe she's even the friend of this boy, but this boy is sort of obsessed with her idol persona, and yeah, she would like him to fall for the real her, and it's about the story could become. I guess that's something the game master could play with. That she finds out. I mean, we come up with things together as we play, but she might find out that her idol persona and her day-to-day persona are both part of her, and the boy also could realize her charm as a regular thing. Yeah, thanks, Lysander. That's wonderfully tragic. It's very tropey. That's the story being told over and again. But that's the key with PBTA games is that they encourage you to go in the trope and follow the tropes. They are trope enforcing slash supporting systems. So ideally a PBTA game, you can discover a type of media or stories you're not aware of, but if you already have a passion for noir movies or teen angsty superhero movies, and suddenly you play a game about that, you yeah, it will provide you a strong foundation to go there, and a great pleasure to really, you're very happy when in game you manage to pull off a scene. Oh, that's so Peter Parker being in a having this scene with Aunt May, and she's about to find out his secret identity, he's hiding it, and he disappoints her in doing so. So that would be Mask the New Generation. And here the tropes are different, and the system supports a different experience. So love, let's say I'm love. Unconditional, you can role place emotional to remove a condition on yourself or another person. On a 10 plus, you clear that condition. On 7 9, you transfer that condition from them to yourself. Ooh. On a 6 or lower, you gain that condition without healing theirs. Oh, okay, so you both. Healing hug, you can always heal 2 damage without having to roll by simply touching the target. Cupid's arrow, you can manifest a bow and an arrow. Feel the love. You always gain a power points for yourself when you use We Can Do It, as long as you are both in a cooperative relationship with each other. I think I already have a bonus for We Can Do It, so I don't want to. I want to have an array of things I can do in game, so I won't build up even more on We Can Do It. Geez, no, I want to play the game. That's a problem. If no, I don't want to run the game. I want to play it. I'm lazy. It's hard work for me to run a PBTA game. That's why I'm playing. I'm running one at a time right now. It's Brindlewood Bay, and I want to run it again and again and again until I get very good with it. And its tropes, its moves, and so on. But yeah, it's not easy. It's a lie that it's easy. It's a misconception. I think it's different. PBTA games. So I'd like to play Glitter Hearts. Uh, tu- 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 tu. I hesitated between Cupid arrows and unconditional love. By the way, as you level up, you'll be able to gain more of these. So you can gain the power of the wings and so on. I think I'll go for unconditional love, because then again, I can imagine my character at some point, yeah, transfer a condition out of the boy she's into, and that since then that he's like, oh, enthralled with a idol persona. Yeah, unconditional love. Okay, so and where do we end? Transformation. And usually, again, PBTA classic, you got a few questions you answer, and that's it. And each question, it's not the case here, but in PBTA games, the questions would be on the booklet. So the questions are different for whatever type of character you're playing. Transformation. Every group of magical beings switch between their normal and magical selves, while your stats stay the same. Every transformation has a drawback. As a group, pick one of the following. So you decide that as a team, which again is typical of Sailor Moon and all these sort of shows. Maybe Card Captor Sakura. I think it's a magical girl show. I think it qualifies. You must have your mystic item to transform. Yep, okay, that'd be cool. You're missing the thing. Very tropey. The transformation process is very noticeable and will attract attention if you're not careful. So you got this big transformation going on, which is you always expect. The transformation process takes a few minutes. There are a lot of details to get right. Your final form looks exactly like you, and there's no keeping that a secret. No, that would be appropriate. So I will go with you must have your mystic item to transform. So we can have fun scenes when the member of my team, one member of my team lost their object, and it's a dramatic situation, and they need to grab it before they can transform. And yes, your group decides that your final forms look exactly like you. You don't have to look anything like your everyday identity. You don't have to have the same gender, face, body, or any other physical detail. Oh, I could have leaned a bit more about that. Maybe it's a coach who's a boy, and then he transforms in an idol girl, and he's attracted to another boy. maybe a teammate in the sports team. Think about what your costume looks like. Are you color coded? Yeah, so typical. Usually you've got Sailor Moon, blue, Mercury, red, Mars, orange, Venus, green, Jupiter, and so on. Blue, not blue, whitish, Sailor Moon. And then you got Pluto and Uranus. Do you gain masks? Yeah, yeah, I would have a mask. Do your costume reflect your mystical connection? Yeah, definitely. So we would describe how so. Is your costume aesthetically impractical, but somehow doesn't interfere with your ability to do heroics in any way? Yeah, probably. I mean, we would go lean into the details of that as a group, and yeah, we could have a big bride's robe or something like that. So yeah, it's 3 hours from the hour. So we're gonna stop here. We might come back to Glitter Heart. Feel free, by the way, to leave comments to let me know which of the games I covered you'd like to go back back to first. Is it Tales of Xadia? Is it Glitter Heart? Is it Achtung Tulu 2D20? Or no, we won't go back to Sonia and Conan versus the Ninja because we covered everything. That's the beauty of a small, nicely packed indie game. I'm going to include a link again in the chat room to Glitter Hearts if you want to buy it, and full disclosure, if you use it, and that link will be in the description of the episode as well. If you use that one specifically, I will get a little bit of money out of Drive-Thru thanks to their affiliate program without it costing you anything. If you want to support me and what I do, you can do so on Patreon and so on. And again, there will be links to that in the description of the episode. But you can also purchase my own game, Paris Gondo, the life-saving magic of inventorying. I didn't keep a close eye on the numbers of viewers today. 8, so I don't think we had a lot of enthusiastic people. I'm very thankful for each of you, but I do not think we reached the 20 people in the chat room. So Akadosh asking me if I'm affiliate now. I will find out tomorrow, because what I needed to do is do this within a time frame of 30 days to stream 7 days with an average of 3 people plus another couple of things I should do. But yes, I should be. I ticked all the boxes, but the day thing takes 1 day to happen, so it should happen. I should have the answer tomorrow. If it's good news, bad news. If the good news is that I'm affiliate, the bad news is that I won't be streaming for you tomorrow because I got people at my home and I got a tiny apartment, and yeah, I need to spend time with family after this week of streaming more than usual. But I will make sure I will make a small announcement. Maybe I will do a short video to announce it. By the way, let me know so if you prefer to see more read-through, more me playing Knights of the Old Republic or other video games. Do you want a Q&A? Do you want a backstage when I'm editing the show or when I'm working on something on Photoshop? Let me know what type of content you'd prefer, so this way I can give you what you want and you can come in numbers, and we can beat this 20 people in the chat room things. So I will play the ukulele for you. So I'm just gonna go and practice the ukulele, but offline, so you won't see it. Again, thanks so much to Greg Lederman for this awesome game. I will seek out a way to play it. Probably I will have the Gauntlet. By the way, June 26 to 28, that's the Gauntlet Open Community Gaming Day. So I highly recommend you go have a look at all the games they have on offer and that you can join for free. There's a lot of awesome game masters and awesome games to try this way, and I do know that, by the way, I think that Lowell Francis from the Gauntlet, awesome podcaster with them and a highly active member, is among us. Yeah, I can vouch for the Gauntlet. That's great to go there and play games. So go check the link I just included and go play with them. And who knows, maybe there's some Glitter Heart on offer there. So we'll find out. There's definitely a lot of PBTA. So if you want to try one, that's the place to be. I've got to go. Thank you so much, everyone. See you soon and stay magical and awesome.